Yes, you read that right. I purposely failed Inktober. If you've been with me for a while, you might know I don't usually like making things easier for myself. If anything, I have the opposite tendency. You might recall illustrations where I did 31 drawings in 31 days, pushed myself so hard I burnt out. And even though I had a week or so more to go, I kept on pushing myself to finish it, which, surprisingly enough, made the burnout even worse. Who would have thought? Unfortunately, this is not just a one-time problem. And the reason why I say that is because it hasn't been a one-time problem. Thankfully, I've gotten so much better with being realistic with how much I can actually do, but that growth doesn't really have seemed to apply itself to my long-term art challenges, as you can clearly see through illustrations. It's like I tell myself, you know what, it's just a month, I can dedicate my life to this one thing for a month. It's just not that long of a period of time. Well, it turns out that when you're doing a really intensive daily challenge and you're expecting yourself to do like top-notch, super detailed drawings, that it actually is quite a long time. For Inktober this year, I made my very own hand-stitched sketchbook. It has some nice details here, like this very upside down dragon on its cover. I just thought it would be kind of fun to play around with the orientation of them. Here's a sideways knight. Even though I was doing a half-hearted version of Inktober, you just have to do the first day. So I did this really, simple acorn to kind of set the tone for the rest of my Inktober. And as you can see, day 2 is kind of melting into it because apparently this pen, as you can see here, it's kind of water soluble. I didn't really think about it soaking through to the other side. I learned from that mistake pretty fast though. Didn't do it again. I know I'm not the only one who has problems with these kinds of challenges. I see all the time around Inktober people commenting about feeling stressed out, unmotivated, or that they're missing days. And while my problem is a little different, I certainly do not have problems missing days. If anything, I should miss more days. But as different as it is, maybe what I did for this Inktober will help you if you have any of these problems. Day 2 of I wanted to say illustrations. Day 2 of Inktober, I did this landscape. This is the only landscape I did. I'm not really much of a landscape person. I just feel like I haven't really got the hang of it yet. But I'm surprisingly happy with how this turned out. This is one of my favorite pieces that I did, even though it's literally a mess of scribbles. So when illustrations happened, that's when I really realized that this was a problem I had to deal with. Because like I said, it's not a one-time thing, especially when it comes down to doing these long-term art challenges. So the way I saw it, I had 2 options. Quit long-term art challenges altogether, or find a better way of doing them. Now, the first option I never actually really saw as an option because this isn't just about art challenges. This is just a natural tendency I have. So getting rid of art challenges isn't really all that much of a solution. It's just kind of avoiding the problem altogether. I might be slightly biased, maybe, since I do really love long-term art challenges, and I couldn't stand the thought to let them go. But that had nothing to do with it. Moving on. For day 3 of Inktober, I did this red giraffe, which also involved a lot of scribblings and fooling around with the water-soluble pen. It's funny because I also did a red giraffe last Inktober, so I don't know what it is about red giraffes and Inktober, but maybe they're going to be a running theme. I've been thinking about this problem off and on after illustrations was over, and the most I came up with were the 2 things that I had the most trouble with. Number 1, not knowing how much I could take on, and 2, not knowing how to back out of a situation where I had taken on too much. But unfortunately, I couldn't think of a solution. You see, when I did illustrations, I did tell myself over and over and over again, you know what, it's okay if you can't do the full 31 days. It's fine if you don't do the best of the best and you just settle for more simplistic pieces. It's not going to be the end of the world. That's not the point. but I just never really took it as a serious option. Yes, I kind of toned down my expectations for illustrations as far as the drawing goes, but I couldn't let go of it, even when I burnt out. So I knew that with my next challenge, I couldn't just tell myself it was okay. There had to be something more. To be honest, I hadn't really thought about this problem all that much because I wasn't really planning on doing Inktober, and I wasn't planning on doing Drawcember either, which is an art challenge I've done for the past 2 years. But it did kind of bother me that I wasn't doing Inktober this year, or so I came outside to complain to Geneva, basically. I just didn't see any way I was going to be able to do it, since I was going to be gone for half the month, and then the other half that month I was going to be trying to prepare for leaving and also filming a bunch of things that didn't end up getting actually fully made. Yeah. But also, I've tried doing art challenges in other people's homes before, and it's always like this weird sort of situation where it's like I almost just do it to get done, but it's not the same because I'm not in my own space. I'm not as comfortable, you know? And if you add all that to my perfectionistic tendency to push myself too hard, I didn't see how it was going to work out. But along with complaining, I kind of was talking about how I would actually do Inktober if I was gonna do it, which I wasn't, of course, because I was too busy. And then it suddenly hit me, as things usually do when I'm talking to Geneva for some reason. And I was like, oh, I just have to make up a bunch of rules. I have to basically make not pushing myself too hard as like part of the challenge so that I actually take it seriously. But of course, I can't do it because I'm just too busy. I'll just be too busy when I'm there, so. Day 4, I made my very own composition. It's nothing special, but it was a lot at the time because I basically never make my own compositions at all. I'm basically always following a reference photo. Well, up until lately, hint hint. I was looking at the fence and thinking, because I was busy, talking about doing art, I was thinking about how I would paint it if I wasn't painting it the way it actually is, and how I'd, put reds in there and yellows and have these like 2 tiny little ants crawling up there, very simple, like super simple, very flat color, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that would just be perfect for ink and Inktober. Too bad I'm not doing Inktober, right? And I was like, that's it. I can do Inktober. I just have to have these rules so I don't push myself too hard. And I have to make simple drawings. So yeah, it was actually, now that I think about it, it wasn't the problem that made me come up with the solution. It was just that I really, really wanted to do Inktober without having all this pressure of just wanting to get it done while I was at someone's house. And with this, I could just do Inktober whenever I not really feel guilty about missing days. So it was just so perfect. How could I resist? And just like that, I had taken the first step to not biting off more than I can chew. Good job, me. Now, I mentioned rules, and there are 6 of them. No inking past 11 p.m., no inking if the day's too busy, no inking if it would be stressful, no inking when too unmotivated, don't continue inking if it would break any of the other rules, and number 6, only post on social media when desired. Part of the whole reason why I'm doing Inktober in the way that I'm doing it was just because, like I said, I was going to be at someone else's house for most of the time, so I really just did not want the extra pressure. But part of it was really combat my old tendency of like never letting myself miss days by actually purposefully making rules that almost encourage me in certain situations to miss days. I felt like this was the best way to get myself into the right mindset for doing these kind of challenges in a healthier way. And so I really took advantage of this for the first time on day 5 when I just look at that. I just totally did not do that day. And to be honest, this day was a bit of a cheap day to skip. I was slightly unmotivated. I was decently busy, but I really wanted to kind of, test the water. And I felt like now was a good day to, set the mindset for the rest of Inktober for feeling like I could skip days. Because I knew if I put it off for later on in Inktober, I could feel like, well, I have so many days in a row that I've already done. I should just go for another day. And I really did not want that. So I skipped the day. You might be thinking to yourself, Bailey, don't you think the rules are both extremely vague, and don't they just kind of remove all the challenging aspects of Inktober? And I would have to say, yes, I do think the rules are very vague, partially because there wasn't really a good way to make them super specific. The only way I could have done was say stuff like, don't do inking when you're unmotivated. But if you say unmotivated, well, most of the time I am unmotivated. Unmotivated in the sense that I don't want to take out my inks and set them up. It's not that I don't want to do art, it's just I don't want to go through the effort of starting that. If I caved into that feeling, I would never do art, basically. So that wasn't going to happen. But also, the problem was never that I didn't know the line of what's too stressful and what's too unmotivating for me. The problem is that before I would ignore that line because it was part of the challenge. It's part of the challenge to overcome all these obstacles that you have. But now that the line is there with these rules telling me if you're too unmotivated, stop, then that gives me permission to actually draw a line in a place that's actually more healthy. As far as the rules taking all the challenging elements out, I am a little sad about that. But the reason why I did it is because I knew when I was in Ontario, I was just going to be very busy. If I was ever going to do this challenge again, I would definitely raise the challenge level, I guess. But we'll get to that later. Now, the first 5 days of an art challenge aren't necessarily the best indicator of how it actually went, so now it's time for the sketchbook tour part of the video, and I'll give you a brief summary of how it actually went down. So right after day 5, I went right back into doing Inktober again, and let's just address this right away. Yes, I did indeed use a lot of pencil on this wolf. Comment down below if that makes you mad. For the next few days, I kept at it, but then we hit day 8, and this was the first drawing that I just really wasn't all that happy with. Having a bad day in an art challenge can be really discouraging, and so for the next few days, I kind of didn't really do anything, and I'm not entirely sure if it was because of this last drawing. I do think it was influencing my mood, but it also could have just been that I was busy, because I was busy. But yeah, day 11, got right back into it, drew this owl, which I was really happy with. I still did take a break in between this day, so now it's starting to get a little more spotty here. And then I had this, another drawing I'm not really super happy about. It's okay, but it's nothing much. And oh, look at that, another chunk of days we're missing here. Oopsies. Though for this one, for a fact, I do know I was really busy. I actually missed 2, 3, 4 days here. I just I didn't write 16. I kind of forgot that, I guess. But yeah, day 17, that was the day I was leaving to go to Ontario, and oh wow, would you look at that? I actually did Inktober the day that I got there, despite being entirely sleep deprived. I basically had an all-nighter because I had an overnight flight and I can't really sleep on planes all that much. Here I am, basically falling asleep, but I was catching up with my friend and I just felt like, doing a little doodly drawing while I was talking to her. So I have this dragonfly here. these are the days that really made me want to do a very laid back version of Inktober, because I knew on days like this, where I'm packing up to go, or when I'm flying, that I just really would not do it. So I'm actually really surprised I even got this done. But it was just, I just did it because I felt like it, not because of any pressure. And I think if I had that pressure to do it on this day, I would have felt a lot more about it. Here we have another whole chunk of missing days. And again, this is pretty understandable because I just gotten there. I was busy hanging out with them. On day 22, I finally was like, oh, you know, that thing, that challenge that I'm doing, maybe I should paint something for it. And then I remembered for the next 2 days. Wow, would you look at that? I was actually, these two ones, I was kind of drawing from my experience, which kind of helped a lot with the motivation thing, because, you know, sometimes it is a bit of a struggle thinking up ideas. So we did an escape room that this was inspired by, and I went to Point Pelee, which is a national park here in Canada, and there were sandpipers there, so I drew those. One of the biggest things I noticed about this challenge, and it's entirely the fault of having such a lax challenge, is just I forgot about the challenge. I did a lot. Most of the gaps back here, those are all because I forgot about it. In the beginning, it's because, you know, I'm busy, but I didn't remember, and suddenly I remembered, and I realized, man, I only have 3 days left. Kind of want to get these 3 days, like, just end the challenge strong, just like how you want to begin the challenge strong. You might be able to tell this was pretty rushed. I basically just threw this together. I wasn't feeling super motivated, but I did really want to get those last 3 days done. But oh, would you look at that? I forgot the last 2 days. I suddenly realized, whoa, it's the 31st. I have 1 day left. And it was nighttime. I was tired. I had just gotten back from an event, I think, and it was in the evening, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Yeah, there's day 16. So you could say I kind of broke my rules, I guess. Not really, but some days I just didn't do it simply because I forgot to. Not because I was too unmotivated, not because I was too stressed or too busy necessarily. It's just, it wasn't on my mind. Because like I said, I removed all the challenging elements. So I didn't really have any extra motivation to do it. And therefore I didn't have extra motivation to remember. But honestly, you know what? It's like, it's not that big of a deal. The point was just to learn to kind of, you know, well, especially get it done on time, and not to stress out about getting everything absolutely perfect and having, like, yeah, because I'm a perfectionist and it's an issue. But yeah, I got 40 out of the 31 days, and I failed Inktober. Whoa. Yeah, my standards are a little too high if I think doing 40 drawings for Inktober is failing. No, I did 14 out of 31, so it's about halfway. It's not bad. Won't complain. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. So it's been a week, and my hair's suddenly wavy now, so continuity. But it is time for the big question of the day. Was this failure of an art challenge a success? Did I accomplish what I set out to do? Well, I do know a few things for sure. First of all, that bedtime rule was a lifesaver. Definitely going to use that one again. It just helped me think of ideas so much earlier and settle on those ideas, and just in general work on and finish the drawings so much earlier in the day. One of the biggest problems I had in illustrations, and trust me, there were a lot of big problems, but one of the biggest problems was just that I wouldn't settle on ideas. I was always trying to find something bigger and better and more perfect. And, well, I basically never did. So I would be stuck at the very end of the day and just throwing something together that I just wasn't really all that happy with most of the time. And if I had maybe settled on one of those simpler ideas and just worked on it from there, I would have actually come out with something that I was at least kind of happy with. That definitely was the most helpful rule, that and the social media one. Because one of the things about social media is that if you know in the back of your mind, I'm going to be posting all 31 of these drawings to social media for all the world to see, then suddenly you have a lot more pressure on your shoulders to create something really good. And ironically, sometimes having that pressure doesn't actually help you do a better job. You might actually end up doing a worse job because you're so busy overthinking it. At least if you're as big an overthinker as I am. So yeah, those two ones, those were the most helpful. The other ones were kind of more for the sake of me being on vacation more than anything. They did help me, I think, with just letting go of my perfectionism and like getting into a mindset where, you know, it's not the biggest deal if I don't meet all of these ideals I have in my head. They were helpful for that. But as far as in like ever using them again, kind of doubt it, because like I said, I needed a little more motivation to like actually remember to even do the challenge. And if I do a challenge where I want to do all 31 days of it, which is what I foresee myself doing, I won't have any need for those rules again. I think it's safe to say that despite only doing half of the days, and it being like a really, really low pressure, I think it was successful. But the truth is, it is really hard to tell if that's actually the case, because guess what? I haven't tried to do a full 31-day drawing challenge again. The real test is to see if I survive doing another Gillustrations, and see if any of this actually transferred into my head. So I guess we'll have to see. But you won't have to wait for too long to find out, because in December, I am doing a daily drawing challenge, basically like Gillustrations, except it's called Drawcember. But I'm basically going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be doing 31 illustrations in 31 days, and this time trying to do the full thing, but this time doing it in a far more healthy way, and hopefully with as little perfectionism pervading as possible. Wow. Well, that was unintentional. And guess what time it is? It's almost December. No, wait. It is December, because I made this video late. It is December, so I'm actually doing it right now, so I kind of know how it's going on. I kind of know if this last Inktober has helped me at all. But you don't, because I'm not going to tell you yet. Now you're trapped. You will never be able to find the knowledge unless you watch the next video. I'm not insane, I promise. That was a very convincing laugh there.